Conversation. My name is Peter Orban, and I work with Green Book. I lead the social and mobile practice and also had the corporate advisory network. And today's panel is going to be something akin to the Holy Grail, at least for everyone who works in a service business and sells services for a living, and specifically in our industry, creating a relationship that goes beyond transactions and reaches the height of partnership is something that we hear a lot about the desired state. Now, kicking off the conversation, you have seen some pretty swift collaboration. I don't know if it's partnership yet, but a pretty swift collaboration kind of making something happen. So that gives me a good feeling of, we're going to go to the right place with this conversation. So let me start introducing the panel very quickly, and I will then ask you, each and every one of you, explain what is your role specifically within your organizations. And we'll take it from there. So starting from left to right, on my left is Sarah Snodden, Senior Manager, Consumer Insights Group of Coir Green Mountain. And then Girish Joshi, Director, Customer Insights at eBay. Carolyn O'Mara, Director, Marketing, Planning, and CRM at McDonald's. And then right all the way to the end is Roberto Simrot, Group Director of Knowledge and Insights, Consumer and Media at Coca-Cola Company. So the title of our panel is Becoming Partners in Business Impact. And as I was digging into this thought, I kind of divided into two. And I will start first with the business impact, and then more specifically, the impact of research on the business and the business outcome. And kicking off the conversation, I'm very curious if research is contribution to the business impact. How much is that? Is it there? Are we making a difference in terms of business outcome? And if so, is it, where is this headed? Is it getting more? Is it getting less? Do we matter in that sense? So who wants to take this question first?
I'll take it. Thanks, first of all, for being here, Peter, and IIeX. So for us, we definitely see the impact of research increasing. As you think about growth rates in the industry, primarily in the market like the US, where growth rates are slowing down, the importance of insights is very, very important for the company, and senior leadership is looking for the insights that we can deliver. The difference and the gist becomes data. Data providers are not impactful anymore. Do-it-yourself tools, social media, agile research made data very commoditized, and it's pretty much a race to the bottom. What really makes a difference is suppliers that can help us crack the why and get a deeper, more meaningful understanding of the consumer, and that's what senior leadership is looking for.
How about elsewhere? Is research making an impact on the business outcome?
Yeah, so hello everyone. So I would say absolutely. I think with the proliferation of data, to Roberto's point, being able to use those in an actionable way is critically important. So I think it's important to do so, though, in incremental steps. So you kind of have to match the company or the client's culture that you're working with. If the insights are too far out or the suggestion is too far out, it's kind of it's paralyzing to the company. So it's working with leadership to make sure that we're able to make incremental changes and that you're matching kind of the culture of the company. So basically the value that you're adding is commercialized and we're able to apply it to the business that we're in.
Mm-hmm. How about in a very different business?
Yeah, so I think the way I think of it is the recommendations that we make are what have an impact. And the fact that those recommendations are based on research is what makes them credible and makes our internal stakeholders want to take action on those recommendations. And absolutely, there's the more competitive our environment becomes, and e-commerce as a sector has slowed down its growth rate, therefore there's even more importance from the company for making sure that the decisions that we're taking are in fact based on good customer data.
How about you? Oh, by the way, could we get a few more mics up here?
It's kind of fun just to pass the mic. I think at Keurig we've been really fast growth, and with that, we're ultimately more essential about the impact of research because we're not as highly process-driven yet because of the growth that sort of eclipsed the processes. So ultimately, for us, I think it comes down to really more of a boil down of sort of the impact and action and looking we're not burdened by hundreds of years of data at this point. And so it's a little bit enabling, but also like a little bit about cutting the path.
But so I by and large, what I hear you guys saying, that research is making a difference, maybe a lot of difference. You know, the more competitive or tougher the marketplace it is, the more the relative contribution seems to be. So I think this is a great situation to be in for us to actually be seen as a contributor to, you know, the business outcomes. I meant to ask, by the way, many of you reference to data in general, kind of implying other data sources. Are we in control of as a function, as an industry? Are we controlling all the other data sources within the enterprise, or are we just sitting on the survey-related information? How does that look in general? I'm very curious to hear where our path is headed in that sense.
So the research, so no one controls the data. I think that's first of all. The research team is responsible for getting data that comes directly from research. But when we're making our recommendations, we want to use whatever data is available, including the behavioral data, which an entire army of people is responsible for making sure it is recorded and easily accessible. And as a culture, we're very much against the idea of anyone should control the data. It's, in fact, everyone should have access to the data.
I think that as us researchers are inherently enabled to liaise with the data and help the organization make sense of it. I remember a couple of years ago, we started doing more and more social listening within the company, and it was initially with other departments that were getting the data and they didn't really know what to do with it. And at one point, they seeked us out. They sought us out, like, hey, please help us out. And we're able to make sense of the data, help pull the insights and the recommendations out of it, because we're used to it. That's what we do day in and day out. So it's just the different data sources are going to change, but I think we're completely capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think in my world, it's being a nimble data enabler, and then just finding the people who are most hungry for the data's impact.
So we are most likely to be able to make squeeze the most contribution out of the data business contribution. So you know, we are the conduit primary. So we do make a difference, a big difference. I'm glad to hear it. So let's go to the partnership side. You know, what partners can help you, or how can they help you? And so I looked up the definition of partnership in Wikipedia, and it says, it is an arrangement where parties, known as partners, agree to cooperate to advance their mutual interests. So we're talking about cooperation and mutual interest, just like as we arranged here, the chairs up here. So is there such thing, now talking about the practice, is there such thing in your experiences, true partnership in a research buyer-seller relationship? Have you encountered?
Yeah, I absolutely think there is such a thing, and it's critically important. And you know, we all have different sort of worlds we navigate the challenges within. But ultimately, like a good partner and a handful of sort of a partner team, really, is what enables us to be successful, within the company.
1 out of 4.
Yeah. In our case, we have partners that we have been doing business for 30 plus years. And they've consistently delivered good quality data and true insights for the organization, and we keep giving them more work. So yeah, we're true partners.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with McDonald's and heard a lot about us in the news lately. So I think it's right now we're going through significant change within the organization, and I think we're seeking new partners, people who look at our customers differently than we've historically looked at them, and so people who can bring us value in different ways of connecting and different ways of listening, and then also bring us different ways of applying that to the business we're really receptive to right now. And that, I can't speak for a lot of clients, but that's the position we're in. So I think with the health of the business, you see more turnover and you see partnerships develop because people can bring new thinking. So I'm on the marketing side. I'm actually not on the research or the insights of the business. So I think I have a little different perspective in that we're building that relationship and we're building that muscle. So working with partners who kind of reach out cross-functionally from the onset and not work just with the insights team, but bring in different parts of the organization. The application or the execution is going to be better at the other end.
Boy, if there was ever an open invitation, right? That's why you come to IIeX. How about you guys?
Yeah, there are definitely research suppliers with whom we have a genuine partnership. I will say that is not common. I would love for more of our research suppliers to have partnership with us because it makes us more effective in what we have to deliver to the company.
So how does that make you more effective? Why partnership is important? I mean, you clearly believe in partnerships. Why is that?
Well, one simple way of thinking about it is if I add up all the people who work at all the research firms that do business with us, that multiplies the size of my team by maybe a factor of 100. Right? And if we genuinely had partnership with all of them and we're all trying to pull to the same objective, that would just change the impact I can have and my team can have by several orders of magnitude.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the same space. Different companies have different amounts of staffing, and I come from a company that may not have the thickest insight staffing, so ultimately partners enable me to be that much stronger. But I also think that in a world where you're covering a lot of internal business issues, partners are sort of the conduit to help you sort of see the bigger picture sometimes and kind of get, you know, a moment to sort of reflect in a true way to bounce ideas and sort of help make your own thoughts more robust and really answer the business questions more holistically.
So I understand why it helps you, a partnership. How does that help your partners? What do you think? How is it helpful them?
I'll take a crack. I mean, ultimately, I think it's probably more fun to be a partner than it is to be a short order cook. And ultimately, I think, you know, you feel more like a consultative, you know, person who's really giving meaning back as opposed to just, you know, an answer. And I think that ultimately, for me, part of what distinguishes a really good partnership from some of the other just really good suppliers is actually empathy, because there's sort of that investment in understanding your business and even your place within the business and sort of how to sort of maximize both is key.
I like empathy. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, everyone gets the satisfaction of having an idea come to life, right? So if we're able to partner with a company or with a research vendor, obviously you're in the business of solving problems or growing a brand, and so that partnership allows us to be more open and you be more open, and we can kind of, you know, co-collaborate then in the problem solving. So it's got to be rewarding.
So let me ask this. We understand why there is partnership, why it's important to you. You know, it's why it might be important for your partners. So what are the drivers? If I'm a supplier and I'm looking for my ideal client, I'm looking for a long-term partnership. You know, what is that I should be keeping in mind? What drives a partnership?
For us, we look at three things in our partners that we're going to continue to have a long-term relationship with. First is having quality data. That's basic hygiene. Without that, we're not going to go very far. The second one is delivering true insights and going beyond the what and the where and the how, giving us the why. The last thing that is really valuable to us, and we're looking more and more, is the expertise and the experience of the team. There's nothing worse than being pitched by a senior VP from a supplier and then being relegated to a junior person. Nothing wrong about the junior person. They all have their space. But for important projects, we really hope that the continuity is going to continue to exist with that senior person that first pitched us that project.
Actually, it's a good point, because I think there's also the watch out of when each individual on the supplier side is really wonderful and smart, but then the sort of way they come together somehow doesn't connect as powerfully as it could, and that, I know, is not ever the place any of us want to be in.
Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, how do you see the average length of a partnership evolving? You said you have partners for the last 35 years. Is this getting longer? Is this getting shorter? What do you see in the industry?
Well, if you look around at IIeX, the number of startups in the industry has really skyrocketed. So there are now new people for us to be partners with. And the length is, I don't think the length really changes as long as suppliers are delivering what we expect them to deliver, and they're also constantly reinventing themselves as new technology pushes the boundaries of what research can deliver.
Yeah, I think the length is contingent on the value that you're adding.
I think it's a clear message. So what makes a good partner on the buy side? What does a good client look like? What do you think?
So I think the question's probably better directed out there. But what I can answer is what I try to do with someone who I think is investing in creating a partnership. So what I try to contribute also is give them the opportunity to learn about my business and my role within the business so that they can build empathy. That's a great point you made about bringing that up. Give them opportunities to talk in a reasonably open way about how they're adding value to my business, because I want them to be successful and have a growing, healthy business of their own so that they can, in fact, have a healthy partnership with me. Being very transparent about projects and pricing and when something makes sense and when something doesn't. But always explaining we're not working with you on this because here's why it doesn't make sense for us. It doesn't mean we don't like you anymore. So that's what I try to put into the relationship.
I think there's a part where you need to be reasonably self-aware about when you're asking for something that's borderline ridiculous, and ultimately try to imply some golden rule. But the reason you're asking is because there's a need, and maybe the timing is fast, or the budget you have is not optimal. But ultimately, I think that sort of self-awareness mixed with sort of trying to have the true empathy kind of come together nicely in those moments when you have to figure out something that maybe isn't ideal.
So we know what you're scanning for in suppliers or future partners. What about the rest of the team? What are the sort of traits that you think are predictive of a good future partnership in either in your organizations or what you see out there?
One thing that's really awesome about IIeX is there's so many new and whiz-bang, cool, amazing things. But I think it's always important to think about on the end of when you've sort of done the new thing and got the business impact, those kind of old school skills of thinking about how you bring it to life are still really, really important. And it's easy to kind of get mesmerized by the shiny object, but ultimately, that sort of how you report it and how you are able to help it live on or stand alone is still really key.
Any other observation in that space?
So 3 things top of mind. One is something that differentiates them, not just from other research firms, but actually from me, because then I get the benefit of a complementary view. So that's really important. Just a very high ratio of doing the things that you say you will do, starting from the basic commitment of we will actually give you quality data on time, but beyond that as well. And the third thing is just curiosity, like a genuine curiosity, not because if I find out more, I can sell you more, but I actually want to know more about your business and how you guys operate.
Yeah, I was not trying to imply that McDonald's is a difficult client. I think for us, because it is such a complicated organization, being a franchise organization, and so this is probably very specific to us, but if you are working with a client who is organized that way, it's really truly understanding how this could be executed or how it impacts the business decision, because it's not just so easy as flipping a switch. So it's really investing in understanding the organizational structure of the business, and then partnering to find wins along the way and learning the data or the resource or the insight that we need to kind of solve a problem one step at a time so we can make sure we can actually execute it.
Yeah, I think I talked about the kinds of things we look for in suppliers. What I usually ask them is, what do you do differently or better than anyone else in the industry? And I always caveat, don't tell me that your team is more experienced than everyone else, because we already work with experienced researchers.
In what proportion of these situations do you encounter true differentiation as opposed to, say, experience or something?
It depends on the venue. Cold call, when people are just calling us out of the blue, it's very rare. Coming to places like this where people are set up to have that kind of discussion is much more often.
So we can do our homework and go into a meeting and come across as, buttoned down and being different and have All right, so partnership. Going back to the partnership, implied in the definition is, a shared outcome, which leads me to the notion of incentives, right? So, when you work in a partnership, it seems to me that maybe there's some sort of shared incentive. How do you incentivize your partners? What are the ways and means to help them share the desire to participate in your outcome or output?
Yeah, this is a thorny one because when you think about we've tried many times, look at what is the impact of the insight and trying to monetize that. But when you think about the decisions that our business people are trying to make, research is only one of them. It might be supply chain, financial, human resources, many other reasons why people make decisions. So I think it would be unfair to the supplier to put the onus on them. I think the biggest incentive is repeat business and the long-term partnership. You deliver good work to us, you deliver good thinking to us. We're going to go back for more business.
Fair enough. How about ours? Other ways, because monetary, I think it's one way, and I think it's clearly very important, but there might be other approaches to think about.
Not to go kind of, to the opposite end, but ultimately, like having partners that you have fun with is like good for both parties usually, and ultimately that has its rewards too. Obviously getting paid is really important, and getting insights is really important, and impact, but having fun along the way is nice.
And tends to be more effective in my experience,
Yeah.
quite honestly. How about you? What do you think you can do from your end to kind of elevate, this shared relationship into partnership through some incentive?
So I think repeat business is incredibly important. Like, there's no way you could overvalue that, I think, as an incentive. The people who I consider partners to me, I make a point of recommending to others whom I know who might, have similar needs. So I absolutely do that. There are folks who are developing a new offering, and I'm happy to take the time to listen to what they have, give my feedback, and it's up to them to take it or not talk about what they're working on to someone else. I'll take the call and I'll talk to you on whatever you want to talk about, in addition to giving you repeat business.
So it's not only that they look at your business outcome and want to influence that, going maybe beyond the specific task, but it goes the other way around. You'll help them with their business in some way?
Yeah, because I want them to be successful so that they thrive and they don't disappear in a puff of failed business model. Yeah.
So for the floor, I'm just letting you know in about a couple, maybe 2 minutes, I'll be opening it up for questions, so you can start thinking about if you have any questions, related to what will make you a good partner with any of these folks and other research buyers. But before getting there, we are at IIeX, and IIeX is the heart of innovation, obviously, so we believe, obviously. So when you look for specifically new and innovative solution and agencies and service provider, what is that you have in mind in addition to what you already have in mind for picking a partner anyways? Any particular criteria?
Okay, everybody's looking at me. Okay, I'll take that one. The default answer that many people might give is, I want things faster and cheaper. I don't think it's necessarily the case. I'm actually looking for better thinking and helping us better understand the consumer. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome. So we're really looking for suppliers that will help us get a different understanding of a different facet of the consumer, so we can unlock that new insight that is going to help us grow the business.
I mean, I've met some quite remarkable people just over the last couple of days, and what's remarkable is they've understood the problem to be solved, and they are solving it in a way that's new. And just looking at it feels believable that their solution might actually work.
So, I'm turning to the room. You had a lot of time to think. So this is the opportunity to ask a question. There you go. Can we have a mic over there?
Thanks. You talked about partnership with suppliers and working with research companies, and presumably a lot of that expertise is going to be subject matter specific. So you'll have one vendor for tracking and one vendor for ad testing or whatever it might be, or product testing. But then you talked about a lot of the growth was in cross data analytics, expertise in new areas, new data sources coming in, social media, etc. Who are you turning to there? Are you finding data analytics specialists, marketing consultants, management consultants? Who is helping you, or are you having to do all of that cross-data analytics yourself?
Yeah, I'll kind of start on that one. So I think we rely heavily on agencies who can take the insight and turn it into an actionable plan for us or work with us to do that. So, you know, just simply the data dump or whatever, that is adding less and less value to us. So some of the most valuable research we've had is solving a specific business problem with a unique point of difference or a way of looking at or listening to customers that, you know, typically we haven't been able to find in the past. But it's not only doing the research, but it's helping us apply the research.
So for us, the answer depends on whether we think the solution is really going to come fundamentally from understanding the customer, in which case that synthesis is done in my organization. But sometimes the solution is a combination of understanding the customer, but also deeply thinking and sometimes rethinking the business model or some of the processes which are not really directly customer-facing but are important. And in that situation, we'll often turn to management consultants to help us.
Right in the front. We'll get everyone. Now it's your turn.
Me first. Hi. My question has to deals with the relationship between you folks and the purchasing department and research suppliers. Yeah.
You may or may not get an answer.
I'll say no more. And I think, I mean, a lot of what I've, you know, we've had several clients we have long-term relationships with, and in many cases, you know, come January, there's a questionnaire that comes our way that says, you know, you've been a wonderful, valued partner, and oh, by the way, we want to know how you're going to squeeze out 5, 8, 10% of your costs in order to deliver us more value. And so we have to kind of fill those things out and try and you know, come up with some way to do that. While at the same time, of course, you know, we have people working on our side who would like an occasional raise or like an occasional, perhaps a bonus for good performance. We look at the client, and some of them are taking, let's say, at least in food categories, you know, they're taking general price increases because their raw materials have been going up over time. And so I guess the question is, you know, and we've had people sitting in your seats who've gone to bat for us with the purchasing department saying, look, you know, we don't want to squeeze these guys. You know, they're doing good work for us. What they're doing is exceptional, or it's different, and it's worth paying the extra money. But it's sort of, in a lot of cases, you know, folks sitting in your seats, you know, don't feel like they want to fight that battle with the purchasing department. So I just want to get a, you know, general sense. I don't know if I really have a question, other than, you know, have you been in that situation before? You know, what have you done about it? So on.
Yeah, I have two thoughts about that. One of the questions is what makes a good client. And I think a good client is shielding our suppliers from the pressures that the business may have, and maybe a financial pressure or a speed pressure, and getting to what's really reasonable. The second side is just the job of procurement is to push the envelope, and they'll push as much as they can to the point that suppliers say no. So it's find what is the balance that you're really uncomfortable and say that. no, that's too much, we can't do business that way, and we'll find a happy medium. Corporations these days are under pressure to cut costs. So you can read any article in the Wall Street Journal, and that's what we're dealing with, and we're in the same boat as you guys are, because we know that the last place we want to be is negotiate such a strong contract. Then when we need an extra analysis, we're nickeling and diming every little extra correlation you got to run, because that's not true partnership on either end.
Ultimately, I think those relationships that you feel most strongly about are the ones that it's easiest to kind of pick that battle aggressively with purchasing on. So in a way, like strong partnership is sort of your best insurance policy. Not that it's perfect.
So they will fight for you. There's another question.
First of all, thank you so much for doing this. This has been one of the most important talks at the conference. You've probably got 80% of suppliers here, and the insights that you've given are going to help us craft our strategies for years to come. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I guess my question is, you've given us a lot of really good ideas and thought about what the future holds and what you're interested in. But if you had to summarize, what's the one thing, it can be a technology or a company, that each of you are most excited about that's coming in the years to come?
Why don't we start in the middle this time?
So what I'm most excited about is the number of people who are rethinking what a deliverable from qualitative research really should look like. I think there's some fantastic ideas that I've come across, and they're all different from each other. They're all better than what we do today, which is pages and pages and wall of text. And I think that's really important, because good qualitative research can be incredibly powerful and can be absolutely destroyed by a poor quality deliverable.
What really makes me excited is getting a deeper understanding of the consumer. And really, the reason why I went into market research, I was actually a marketing graduate and I went into market research because I really wanted to know what makes people tick. And is all the advances in technology, revisiting social sciences that were used in qualitative, and now technology allows us to apply them into quantitative data to really help us understand, in our case at least, what it's going to take to get someone to drink an extra beverage, and going beyond the surface level that unfortunately is what we got used to with reams and reams of PowerPoint.
Yeah, I would say social listening, because that's the forum where customers are most disarmed, and I'm sure you guys experience this, but what customers typically say and do are two totally different things. So how do you get to that customer truth?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's the whole sort of immense spirit of change, and even the sort of classic disciplines are rethinking themselves and finding ways to be more compelling and predictive, and all of the new ways of harnessing behavioral economics and non-conscious measurement are super exciting.
Right there.
So you guys talked about taking insights to the next level, to the next step, helping you with implementation. So really, what is that to you guys? Is that a PowerPoint that just has better recommendations, better bullet points? Is it something else? What's that next level that's going to help you with the implementation?
I always tell my suppliers that if you have too many pages of PowerPoint, you have no power and no point. So really concise reports. We are fighting for attention with the marketers. So having compelling deliverables, infographics have been a huge step. Videos. We work with advertising agencies, and the creatives don't understand charts. They just don't. And we have suppliers that put a one-pager of a segmentation, but before that, they put a beautiful quote from the consumer that we got from the open ends, and that makes the creatives get it. And that's what we're looking for in great reports. It's really building the empathy between the consumer and the marketers and the creatives that we're trying to influence day in and day out.
Last question.
A lot of the insights information that your suppliers are bringing you has a certain shelf life to it, and it's actionable over some period of time. I don't know if that's in months or years, depends on the sector you're in. Do you see a need for actionable insights that have more shelf life to them, that are longer, that can help your brand have a longer arc in the actions you're taking? Or are we good where things are?
You know, I think there's always the sort of foundational strategic insights that tend to sort of have more staying power, and certainly there's always those tactical kind of questions that are a little more ephemeral. But ultimately, I think, you know, it's interesting, you know, as you kind of think back over your career, and the things that have really stuck are the ones that were, you know, transformative to the business, and that sort of compelling way of where something came together and you were able to get the audience to think differently about, you know, who's really using the product and bringing it to life in the organization is key.
Yeah, I think it depends on the industry. I mean, I think needs are fairly static. I mean, they may evolve some, but if you're maybe in a faster paced product development cycle, then that shelf life should be faster versus, you know, a longer, which is, you know, like the food industry.
I don't think there is a problem of I wish our insights would last for longer. My problem is really, I wish more of what we describe as insights would trigger action soon. Yeah. That's the more critical thing for me.
Boy, that's very well put. So please help me thank Sarah, Girish, Carolyn, and Roberta. Thank you.